Ever Love podcast. We just want to give you love, peace, and hair grease. I did one better.
What?
If you know someone who has not found their way in life, tell them to reach out to us. We're going to guide you to the amazing path of loving you.
You know what you sound like? You sound like those people, those ASMR people. They'll be doing stuff and then trying to low talk at the same time. I love it.
This is so good.
Yes.
I love this. This is great.
Yeah. That's how they sound too.
I love it so much.
Don't do that. I love ASMR. It's a lifesaver, guys.
I do too. I like the ones when they talk. Nah, listen, the Zach Choi episode where he was eating the hot chip challenge, that made it sound like you found Jesus. That's literally what he sounded like.
I don't know why people be doing that anyway.
Yeah, somebody died from that challenge.
I know.
So here we go. We're about to start. The songwriter says,
L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see.
like in my quartet bop.
Is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore and love. Is one that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. You and love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. I'm sure I murdered those lyrics.
Gotta take the wedding solo, the jazz wedding band solo.
What? Too much. Too much. Too much.
Gotta build it up.
That's too much.
All right, guys and gals. You are now tuned into the Redemption Hospital podcast. Oh man, where we discuss things to change your life. Yes, we are generally talking to millennials. However, if you feel like you are getting any type of knowledge from this, please tell us also.
Yes.
Also, we are opening the door for emails, and we are going to start taking in some requests. We're going to go live soon and give you guys some requests and some help. I'm going to be honest with you.
Some help.
Right. I'm going to be honest with you. You guys, if you haven't known, you're going to know how I am. I'm very hardcore when it comes to truth. But at the same time, if you guys bring any type of stupidness my way, I'm laughing. I'm sorry. Ann is the serious one out of us.
I am.
She's the serious one. And I will make sure if you have a problem that you need solved, not to make it so entertaining. But you might like the fact that it's entertaining anyway. I'm just letting you know what to expect. That's D as in dog, N as in Nancy, V as in Violet at luminoushorizon.org. Let's get into this episode. This is Don J.
And Yrvette Renee.
And this is Redemption Hospital. Sometimes you got to recognize that you're the reason for your own failures.
And that dream partner you want is only attainable if you fix your mindset.
We've both had failures and heartbreak that drove us close to desperation.
But with prayer and education, we found each other and knew that this was what God destined for our lives.
Our job is to teach you the fundamentals to becoming a great partner so you can lay down a foundation for that person that you really want in your life. After all, we believe that if God was through with you, he would have called you home by now.
So sit back and enjoy some laughs, inspiration, and education on Redemption Hospital.
All right, guys. We are here with part 2 of
Man World Women. Who's wrong with you?
All right. I want to let Vet have a lot of the floor today because she wants to share Many women struggle with letting a man lead because they've already let the wrong man in. And after they've let the wrong man in, it is extremely hard for them to let the right man in because the wrong man has already imprinted them. And so I want her to really give the floor, and I hope you ladies are open and wide open to what she has to say. But I'm going to let her give her intro story real quick. I just got some follow-up questions for her. That's pretty much how this is going to go.
Let's start off by saying that we knew from the beginning this was going to be a rather controversial podcast episode. And once we got done with the first one, I felt like a follow-up podcast was needed because I really needed to explain how I got where I am. We're all about transparency and about experience. And my experiences are what led me to be the woman I am, which is a submissive woman and a woman that is willing and able to allow a man to lead. Now, this is my experience. I'm not trying to project my experience on anybody else. I'm just telling you what my experience is and how I got here.
Right. So, you know what? Matter of fact, before I get into this, walk me through your first relationship. Your first real relationship, right? Walk me through your second, and then give me fresh out of your second relationship.
Okay. My first relationship, which if you've seen our first podcast, you know this already. But my first relationship was a long distance relationship. I was maybe 19, 20, somewhere, because I'm pretty sure I turned 21 while me and him were together. So I was like 19 or 20. Started off as he was local, and then his mom retired out of the military and she came and got her children and moved to Florida. So we ended up being a long distance relationship. And for the most part, it was pretty normal. As most people know, long distance relationships are very hard, especially with it being your first relationship. And also, I was still extremely young. I didn't have an experience being in a relationship or being that intimate with anybody outside of my own family members. So it was quite interesting and quite the experience, but it was a pretty normal relationship. He was a God-fearing man. He was an ideal boyfriend for me at the time. I have no objections to that. The distance was just too much for me. And then my second relationship was where my early on hurt and trauma came from. I was with a guy who presented himself to be one way, but ended up being another. He was very much a cheater. But the thing was, I never thought that he cheated on me physically, but he had an issue with talking to different women on social media and through different dating apps and things of the such. And it was a respect thing for me. Like, if we were just dating and, I can go and do what I wanted to do and you could do what you wanted to do, that would have been fine. But he had me under the impression that we were monogamous, and therefore he was only talking to me. I was only talking to him. But that's not what the case was. So I put up with it for a little while, but it became too much. Like, nobody wants to be disrespected. Nobody wants to continually have the conversation of, I'll change, and I'll stop doing this, and I'll stop doing that. But you still keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And eventually I got fed up. But out of that situation, I developed trust issues. I developed trauma and insecurities because all I wanted to do was be loved and to love. But he was out here playing games. Like, why are you playing games with me? But yeah, out of that situation, I definitely took that hurt that I had in that relationship and I carried it on with me through life for a little bit.
And I want to pause and say this. You said that this man has built some form of success for himself. And that's typically when a lot of that reaching out to other women increased, right? Or just
he's always been that way.
Always been that way.
Always. From the beginning, it was bad. Like, I ended up finding out because he had I believe it was an iPad at the time, and he had two of them. One was for work, and one, I believe, was just his iPad. So he was like, use it, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I ended up taking it home with me one day. And I was trying to log into my Facebook, and his Facebook came up. Need I say more? Like literally just woman after woman after woman after woman. And my thing is, if you're talking, what pissed me off even more was he was trying to talk to these different women who clearly were not interested in him. But he would just go back and message them like 5 times in a row, and then he'll stop, and then maybe a couple months later he'll go and message them again to see if anything changed. Like, sir, what is wrong? Something was wrong. Now, Well, something's wrong. I don't know if it was a rejection factor that he couldn't get over. I don't know what it was, but it was just extremely strange and weird to me.
So one thing that we like to say in many communities and many avenues is men think that when they become something, that they're owed something.
Yeah.
And they don't say it, but they secretly believe it. A man gets money, and then like you see this on podcasts now, I won't name any. A man gets money, and you see they're not necessarily giving direction to say, hey, ladies, you should try this. Because giving direction to a woman, I'm going to get to my point. Giving direction to a woman, if you know that she's going to make her own choice, you can give it to her like this.
Yeah.
And say, hey, but if you're yelling and you this, and you're calling a bunch of names, in my opinion, when you get to that form, you're trying to force someone your beliefs because you think that now, because of all the hurt and trauma that you used to have, you made it now.
Yeah.
So now you owe me your time. You owe me your respect. You owe me your loyalty. And I'm screaming and I'm telling everybody, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm trying to embarrass you. They don't owe you nothing.
Yeah.
They didn't care that you got rich. They didn't care that you got fit. They didn't care about none of that stuff. And then on a more low key level, right, we're talking outside of a podcast, in your situation, my opinion, you have a man who didn't take the time. Now, it's different if, a man slipped up, and I'm not giving any type of, leeway, right? No one wants to feel like they're being betrayed.
Yeah.
But when a man chases validation of that nature, he really wants to feel like something.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where you don't know yourself. And I say this all the time, you're trapped in the abyss of trying to get other people to tell you about yourself.
Yeah.
And the saddest part is, some men and women will say, all right, fine, you're going to keep doing your thing, then I'm going to leave. And you'll think that that's the straw for them, right? A person who values you, they're like, oh, hell no, I ain't, nope. But a person who doesn't value you, it's like, oh. And it's sad. It's a sad reality for many of us is we were never a person's go-to. We were just taking up time.
Yeah.
And the saddest part for that person, not you, you got your time wasted. Saddest part for that person is they don't even know what they're looking for. And so in this situation, I can say personally, that man passed up a good thing. He really did. No one's perfect, but I mean, when you have an instilled mindset and you're raised a certain way, bro, you got to realize when you got something good. I've never had anything good. I'm just being honest. just saying, I had a friend, right, who I talk to now, right? You know this. And this friend said that they were hurt by many men, right? Hurt by many men. And this friend said they've always had an attraction to women. And I've always heard that throughout my life, right? I've always had an attraction. It's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not in the same boat. And so I can't comment on that.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, because of what you've been through, you've gone through something, right? And I want you to keep the question in the back of your mind. I'm going to ask you again. But do you think that enough trauma from a man will cause a woman to be like Cat Williams said, she went from, and please blur this out, she went from dating a bitch after bitch after bitch till she said, fuck, I'm a date a bitch.
Listen. Wait.
There's some truth in that statement, I think.
It is. And for me, and like I said, my experience is not going to be every experience. So I'm not saying that everybody that is in a same-sex relationship is only there because of their trauma and because of what they went through, and it's not real. That's not what I'm saying. Do I agree with it? No. But I'm just saying my experience. My experience does not have to be your experience. I would just say that. So I think when I went into my first same-sex relationship, I was just looking for somebody to love me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I didn't care where it came from. I didn't care what it looked like. I just knew I was missing something. And in my mind at that time, I thought it was love from another person. So the situation just arose that the next person in my life that I felt meant me some good and cared about me and loved me was a woman.
Yeah.
And before her, I never looked at a woman and was like, ooh, I wonder how that would be. That was never a thought that crossed my mind. That's how I know I was allowing her to lead my decisions. Because first of all, I knew better. My mom grew up in the church. I grew up in the church. I know what the Bible says about it. So I knew that that's not the direction I wanted for my life, but I was hurt. And I was like, hey, if this is what I have to go through in order to get what I feel is missing in my life, then I'm going to do it. Yeah. And I did it. And it was definitely not a good decision. I was looking for fulfillment from another person that another person wasn't able to feel, whether it be male, female, black, or white. But I didn't know that at the time. But she came into my life as a best friend. We talked all day, every day. She cared about my feelings. She cared about my emotions. She cared about what I was going through. She asked me how my day was. We had each other's back. That's how the friendship is what developed into the relationship. Okay. And in the beginning, Lord have mercy. Tell me like it is. In the beginning, I went through something with her that involved another woman. Basically, she was still living with her ex. And she told me, hey, it's not like that. We're just living together. The ex had 2 children, I think, or something like that. So we're still together. I'm just helping with the kids and da-da-da-da. And my young, naive, hurt brain at the time actually believed it. So I was like, okay, cool. And mind you, this is the beginning. It's still fresh. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Right. But as time went on, I realized that that wasn't necessarily the case. The ex was still under the impression that they could still get together and all this other just hoopla. Normal, typical type of situation that comes out of that. Right. So that's how that ended. Now, mind you, me and this girl ended up getting back together. So the first part of when we were together was kind of just like dating, just kind of feeling each other out. Okay. We lost connection because I was very upset. I was by myself for a little while. I was basically just dating, but I wasn't with anybody. So we lost touch. She emailed me every day. She texted me every day. All of this, I love you and I'm sorry. And the girl didn't mean anything to me. And I'm sorry I wasn't transparent with you. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Eventually, we crossed paths again. And I, during that time of being by myself and dating, hadn't healed anything. I didn't grow any as a person. No. Nothing. I was still the same person. Gotcha. So I fell right back into the trap of being with her again. So I was with her again. And in the beginning, I was happy. We had fun. We went on vacation. I met her family. Her family was super cool. Yeah. It was just a fun experience, and that's how I was looking at it. She provided me some form of love, broken love, that I didn't know was broken at the time, but broken love. So I was good and I was great. Right. So here I am in this lesbian relationship, and I still wasn't happy. But I thought, I'm not happy because I'm not close enough to her. I'm not happy because she's not giving me enough love. I'm not happy. I made everything about her. instead of seeing what the situation really was.
No.
And the situation really was, I wasn't supposed to be with her, first of all. Second of all, the love I was seeking was not going to come from her or any other person. I was seeking the love of God and didn't know it at the time.
Right.
I had stopped praying. I stopped going to church. Like, we never stepped foot in a church together. We never prayed together, any of that. Oh. I feel like we prayed together, but it was like very surface level, like praying over food or something like that. But other than that, my spiritual life just totally went down the drain. And I was ignoring all the signs of God telling me, this is not what I want you to do. Right. Come back home. I want to fix you. I want to help heal you. But I can't if you're not with me. And I ignored it every single time. He sent me signs through different situations that happened in the relationship, as far as her disrespecting me. Eventually, towards the end, she ended up cheating. Mm-hmm. My mom and my dad actually, and I feel like that should have been the biggest sign ever, but I still ignored it. I remember my mom had told me to come over her house one day. So I went over there. My dad was there. I think they were together at the time. I don't remember. But my dad was there. And they was like, hey, come outside and let's sit in the car. And they told me to do that because my little sister was at home at the time. No. So we sit outside. We went outside and sat in the car. And basically it was a conversation like, hey, because they knew I was with the girl. Yeah. So it was like, hey, what are you doing? This is not of God. This is not what God would want you to do. This is not natural. Like, they gave me all of these basically bullet points, and they really were trying to figure out, like, what is going on with you? Yeah. And I really didn't have an answer. But they basically were telling me, hey, we love you. We're always going to be here for you, but we don't approve of how you're living right now. Yeah. And I was so gone at that point that the only thing I could think about when they were talking to me was, I want to get home to my girlfriend. Oh, wow. That's the only thing I could think about at the moment, because it was me running away from what I knew was the truth. And my parents were telling me the truth. And at that time, I didn't want to hear it. Yeah. I just wanted that fulfillment of what I was lacking at that time, which I thought was coming through my girlfriend. Yeah. So I don't know. And it hurts me. Like, I'm not ashamed of my experiences, but I'm very sad because I knew better. Mm-hmm. And I know in that moment, my parents were very disappointed in me. Yeah. And I love my parents to death. And one thing I never want to do is disappoint them anyway. And I did. Yeah. And it hurt.
I understand.
And that was yet just another sign of God trying to pull me out. He had it in so many other ways before then, just thoughts and like, hey, like just literally talking to me and telling me, hey, come back home. Yeah. And I just wouldn't listen. So that was another sign that I ignored. And he said, okay, well, do your thing. Mm-hmm. We all have free will. And that was what I chose. And so I went through the experience, end up more hurt than I was in my previous relationship. Yeah. Me and this girl were together maybe 2 years or so. Mm-hmm. And towards the end, it was throughout the whole relationship, she was a very indecisive person. So why I thought in her indecisive brain she would be decisive about me was totally beyond me, but she wasn't. In the end, she ended up going with a girl that she worked with, and she was bold about it. Like, she was so bold. I remember coming home and she had like disappeared. Like, she just started disappearing out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I would call and text her and she was nowhere to be found. And I came home one day and it was 3 movie tickets on her side of the bed. She had what are things called? A nightstand. Mm-hmm. On the nightstand was 3 movie tickets for a child's movie. Mm-hmm. And it had happened, like the time and the date had happened during one of the times and dates where she had disappeared on me. Oh. I looked and I was like, oh, so you were at the movies with a woman and her children. Okay. And that's how I found out something was going on. It was another situation where, the funniest thing ever, I was at work and she was in school at the time.
Uh-oh.
And she was like, I'm going to get ready to go to, like, we were just texting back and forth while I was at work. And she was like, I'm going to get ready to go to school in a little bit. And it was a holiday. Mind you, I don't remember what holiday it was. I don't remember if it was Memorial Day. It was like one of those holidays where school is not schooling.
School is not
School is not in.
Yeah, it's not hitting.
So I was like, I thought you were, school is out. It's a holiday. And she was like, yeah, we're just going to go and work on a project or something. And I said, okay. So it nagged at me for the rest of my shift at work. It did.
Yep.
So I got off. I get home and she's not there. I started texting and calling. Nothing. I said, okay. I was like, I'm going to drive to that school and see if I'm crazy. So I drove to the school. Not one car in the parking lot. Not one car.
Wow.
And it was like a technical college and another college. They were side by side.
Right.
I was like, well, maybe they, somehow they connected and they use this library over here and this library there. Let me go over to this other parking lot and see if anybody's at this school either. Nobody was anywhere to be found.
Wow.
I kept blowing up her phone, kept texting her, nothing. I went back home, just sitting there, waited, pissed off, because I'm like, what is going on?
You lied to me.
Listen. And I feel like at some point I called her and she answered and I heard all this noise in the background and all I could think of was a fair.
Oh, yeah.
And
gotta give you the answer, by the way. Gotta give you the answer, by the way.
She was at the fair with this girl and her 2 children. And that was pretty much the demise of that relationship. It was some things that she had demanded of me. Like she came to, hey, I wish you would do this. I wish you would do that. Which was fine, right? But they were like sexual things, right? And mind you, this is my first lesbian sexual relationship.
Exactly.
And it was just some things that I wasn't comfortable with. And she used that as an excuse of, she brought this idea of polygamy to me. And she was like, well, what if, I move a girl in and, she'll be able to do the things that you aren't comfortable doing and da-da-da. And I was like...
That sounds like F-boy stuff.
I was like, nah, I'm good. So long story short, that was the end of that relationship.
Those questions are coming. All right, so... First and foremost, I'm trying to think if I want to bring the serious or the entertaining side of me, because I got some questions. Lord have mercy.
Listen.
Matter of fact, we'll start with the funny.
Okay.
So the whole polygyny aspect of it. First of all, where did you guys meet?
We met on some app out there in the world that I don't think exists anymore.
Okay. Like one of those like Plenty of Fishes or something.
No,
like
it
that.
Was kind of more like a print app more than anything. It wasn't like a, how apps these days just down dirty and
it's
all
pretty bad.
Sexy and all this stuff. It wasn't like that. It was
so
like
it was like what used to be out?
I can't remember the
MySpace thing you had.
Yes.
There was one that was out. It was like where black people were prominent.
I can't remember. Planet.
Yes, Black Planet. There it is.
I don't know if that was it or not. It might have been. I had one at one point. But I don't know. It was one of those.
I had one and I treated it as like a social app. They were like, bro, that's not what it's for. I was like, oh, okay.
Like, sorry. This is not Facebook.
I was young. I got them all. Like, you know what I'm saying? When I had MySpace, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Then they were like, this is out. I was like, oh, so I did the same thing everywhere. Kind of like how, you do Twitter and all this stuff now. Like, you post the same videos. Like, that's not how it works. That's what I did then. I was like, hey, Black Planet people. I was like, bro, what are you doing here? I'm like, I got a gig. It's like, man, get the freak out of here.
That is not what we're trying to do, sir.
Right. But
that's hilarious.
The whole polygyny aspect of it, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna bring the entertainment side out before I bring the other side out. But when I was definitely hurt, but I was going through a phase where I wanted to see. You know how I am. I like to see what's out of life. But when I was telling women up front, hey, I'm gonna speak to the fellas real quick. I told women I don't want to be in a monogamous relationship. I don't want to do it. And I told them in the beginning phase, like I'm talking as soon as we started talking, like, oh, I really like you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Hey, listen, I got 5 kids. I don't want to be in a monogamous relationship, right? And I'm not saying like straight up like, hey, we get to the restaurant. Like I'm talking like we had a good time, get to the restaurant. And that first glance was, oh, I don't know if I could do that. Like, oh, that's kind of whack, blah, 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 this. And then I'm like, hey, cool. I just wanted you to make your own decision, right? I was batting 10 for 10, I promise you, because giving that, they will call me back whether 2 days or a week later and say, you know what, I respect you for saying that. You didn't just go out here, and cheat and all that stuff. I respect you. You know what? Let's talk, let's date, let's see it. Like, you get what I'm saying? The problem for me was I grew up in a household where there was a man and a woman. And so I had to figure out which part of me was trying to be polygynous, right? Polygynous in the real aspect of what it was, like biblical. Not like we're just going to go out here and we're just going to do, I mean, biblical. Like you have more than one woman, wife, right? That you take care of. It ain't no three thing, ain't no threes company. We all having threesomes. That's not how it works. That is not. And the Bible, you were not allowed, those 2 women were not allowed to touch each other. Not sexually, not nothing. You are not allowed, if somebody was unclean, you don't have sex with them. The other person unclean, you don't have sex with them. You don't spend time around them, all that stuff. We just speaking true facts, right? But for me, it didn't work. It didn't work because I realized I don't have the capacity to take care of more than one person in a relationship as far as emotions. I don't have the capacity at this moment and even in the future to take care of another woman, to give more than one woman a family in the same house or in separate households and all that stuff. I said, I can't do it. God bless you guys that can do it, but I said I couldn't do it. However, I went into it because I said, again, I wanted to try this. And I talked to my father about it. And my father gave me some insight. I'm not going to tell you guys everything, but he gave me some insight. He says, son, the Bible says this, the Bible says this. Use this, govern yourself accordingly, but I have to give you what the word says. And what I discovered is, as far as monogamy was related, it was toward priests, bishops, people in the church, right? You had one wife, right? And I took that information and everything that I had and I said, okay, cool. But again, it didn't work for me because I'm just like, bro, I'm having a hard time just with me. And I was looking at it from a relationship standpoint, because we're going to get to that, what she just said. I was looking at it from a relationship standpoint and I was like, yo, do I want to do this? Or is this really my excuse, as men say, for not wanting to be in a monogamous relationship? Now, I will say this. I do think that it's a complete challenge for any man to be in a monogamous relationship, which is why I love when a woman meets him halfway and says, you know, you got sexual needs, you got sexual this, you got this, I'm going to meet it. Because she's wise enough to know if I drain his nuts now, he's not going to walk out the house. A wise woman knows.
Amen.
If you about to send your man on vacation, you're like, oh, I'm going to send you. She's going to give the best. He's out for a week. She's going to give the best performance. And I do want to call it performance of a lifetime. And that man going to be sitting there. A woman could flash her titties in his face. He going to be like, that's nice. Okay. That's nice. But a woman understands that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A wise woman, right? A lot of these women who are in relationships now, like, I don't feel like it. I don't this, I don't this.
And then get mad when you go cheat.
Yeah, get mad. Like, bro, he's fighting his urge. Just like I can I'll give you a virtual high five. I can highly respect a woman like this one over here who can say, you know what? Let me sit. I want to think before I speak because I'm having an emotional moment. Your emotions are everything. And so I can highly respect a man who can be in a monogamous relationship. I can highly respect a woman who can meet him halfway. I highly can respect a woman who can put her emotions aside to help make a logical decision. Or even ask what that is. Now, this woman went about the whole, you ever tried this? You ever tried this? Because again, no judgment. But she definitely had an appetite before you got there. And here is the thing. You were looking for something. You broke the cycle in what someone gave you, right? Yeah. Clearly, we're together. You've done the work. I've done the work separately. We've joined like, wow, hey, how are you? How are you? Prior to that, You broke the cycle. I don't think you understand or realize. When you look at someone in a situation like that, you don't judge them, but you have to understand she's eons ahead of you. And so where you're like, this is my first lesbian relationship, this is my first experience like this may have been her 7th or 8th heartbreak. And so she's never broken the cycle of what people have given to her and what she's given to herself. And so her wanting a polygynous, and I can't even say that because polygyny goes from a man having multiple women. So whatever we call that, it just stemmed from her appetite being too large.
Yeah.
And so she loved how you made her feel and all that stuff, but she didn't know how to suppress the appetite, right? Like you and I have examples, and of course I won't share too heavily, for people who are nosy, but we have things that I'm like, I've discovered about myself I like. You've discovered about yourself that you like. But instead of like, well, I want you to do this, and then you don't do it, it's like, well, I'm going to go get it somewhere else. It's like, okay, you're willing to toss away a person. Right, as a person, this is one little sector. You're always going to get 80%. That's it.
Yeah.
So you're going to toss away a person because you can't get that. And that is a form of what I would call leadership. And she was like studdish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Studdish women have a very great appearance, an amazing appearance. That's like, yo, I've had stud friends. I have stud friends to this day. Like, yo, what up? But it's the mindset of a man that a woman falls in love with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so every now and then I'm indecisive too, but I know deep down inside I got to make a decision, right? And I'm indecisive because I used to be more recently just very, what's the word? I just make decisions. I just do stuff.
Impulsive.
You know what I mean? And so I get indecisive now because deep down inside, like way back in my mind, I'm like, bro, you don't need that. Put that crap down. And so I'll be indecisive, like, well, that's a justification process. But it was the leadership aspect she was missing to give you to say, I want you to do this and this way and do this way. Instead of saying, let's bring another woman in, because that was truly her intention. She could have just said, hey, come here, give me a hand. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you how I want it. Like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
You're so crazy.
But, yeah, man. Yeah. There was something I wanted to touch up on, but you mentioned something. You were chasing and wanting love. That's the serious thing I wanted to brush up on. So what is your thought process on your receiving, right? People miss this in relationships. And it wasn't until I understood this, even as today, that sermon Pastor Nova preached. Amazing sermon. If you don't have a church home, Victory City, Atlanta, just go, man.
Just go.
In a relationship, we are in households, right? You can take the good or bad of your household and you'll carry it on. The issue with carrying that on is we become recipients of what traumas we perceive. And so when we go out in the world, because we were recipients of that, now we want to in turn be recipients of the good that the world has.
Yeah.
And so the very, very, I would say less than 1% will go out into the world from child to adult and say, okay, this is what I faced. This is what I'm going to give, right? Look at all these famous people out here with books and science and this and all that. They've had amazingly like horrible childhoods.
Yeah.
But when they became courageous and told their story, they started making a lot of money. Simply put, they gave. And so you provide hope. We think that we live our own lives for ourselves. They provided hope for people.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, when you went out here searching for people to heal that portion of you, you went out operating in hurt. At any point, did you tell yourself, if I give more of myself, right, then maybe I'll get something back?
Of course.
Now, do you think that if you took a second to ferment, I always talk about fermentation, right? I go missing from YouTube for like 4 months. It's like, bro, what the freak? Because I need to get myself right.
Yeah.
This is an honest question. I want to see if you can give me an open-ended. Do you think if you took time for fermentation at that young age, not now, at that young age, that you would have not even crossed paths with some of these people? Because you're like, okay, they've taken something away from me. Let me replenish myself and then find someone to give myself to. Do you think you were in that headspace then? And if so, or if not, what is the answer for people out there who have gotten everything stripped away from them in relationships and all they want is somebody to love them? What's the answer?
I do feel like if I would have took time to myself, if I would have gone back to my Bible, gone back to church, I do feel like I could have replenished myself and I would have known what I was really seeking, which was God at the time. I do think I could have did it at that young age. My maturity, of course, still wouldn't have been what it is now. But to a certain extent, I do think I could have did it on my own without going out here and searching for what I thought was lacking. For a person that is trying to do that or trying to replenish themselves from what other people have stripped from them, you just have to be still. No dating, no talking, go to work, come home, go to school if you're in school, come home. Whatever religion you're under, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Jehovah's Witness, whether you're whatever, get into it. Date that. Let that be your date on Friday night. If you want to go out and have fun, go out with a friend, and just, have fun. But no sex, no relationship, no nothing. You can't heal yourself while you're still out here doing those types of things.
Yeah.
You have to be still. It is so much power in being alone and being still.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that. It hurts.
Oh, man.
It's not enjoyable at all.
No,
because everybody wants somebody. Yeah. Everybody feels lonely. But it's a necessity in order to grow, in order to know yourself, in order to get where you need to be spiritually. So you don't have those thoughts, you don't have those needs. You know where your power comes from, and it's not from another person. If you don't sit still, you're never gonna get there.
It's crazy. After I got cheated on, right? So I discovered she'd been cheating for pretty much the whole marriage. Or so what it looked like from those messages and whatnot. And every time she left and went back, I discovered, like, bro, you ever have that moment you ask yourself, what made me happy before I got here?
Yeah.
Like, this person diminished me, and I thought about it. And I said in episode 1, I was chasing being a musician so much that when I got into a relationship, I didn't have the keys that you would think a person would have. I was like, oh man, I'm coming here like a newbie. So after she cheated, I said, well, what made me happy? What used to make me happy? And I realized what used to make me happy was sitting in my room. So simple. Sitting in my room and listening to music.
Yeah.
And I worked third shift at the time. Like, when I say there was bliss, I had so much bliss in myself that even when I was going through like turmoil situations at home, I wasn't necessarily upset at my parents or like, my relationship, my ex-wife, and, my brother and all the people. I wasn't mad at them because of the situations that took place. I was mad because the peaceful sections that I had when I was alone, when I was by myself, I'm like, dang, I missed that.
Yeah. And
so when I always felt like somebody was putting me in a chokehold, like me, time. I'm like, oh my gosh, bro. Yeah. Like, just give me all I wanted. And when I had those moments, I would literally sit and look in the sky and just be sitting there listening, share my life, share my life. And I'd just be sitting there just chilling. Uber was one of the best things that happened to me. Lyft was one of the best things because I'm out here driving people, and I would tell them straight up, like, hey, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I would love to have a conversation. If it hurts my rating, it hurts my rating. But this time, if you need a conversation, let me know, man. But I'm gonna turn some music on. And most people are like, wow, I appreciate that. And it was just me and music. I don't care if that drive was 2 hours, or some of them were 2.5.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, because that was my peaceful center in my core. So I had to ask myself, man, how do I get back to that? And I got back to that. And the thing was, you're not lying, Vet. It was hard. Because it wasn't just getting back to that and saying, oh, this is my happy place, this is what it is. It was getting back to that and trying to forget all the hurt, all the pain, what somebody's taken away from you, what you no longer have. Did the enemy take this? Is God capable of bringing this? These are real questions you have.
Yeah.
And so I got back to myself, and the first 2 months was, I don't know if daunting is the word. The first 2 months were like hell. Because, again, I chased music. So when I got into a relationship, I went relationship. So this is the first time I thought to myself, well, what am I looking for? Right? And the biggest thing for me is during those first 2 months, I just had a time of reflection. And any time that I felt like a depression or anything like that, I learned from Ed Milet. He said, you don't do depression. You don't feel depression. You do depression. It's a posture. So when you go exercise, we had a conversation. It's like when you go exercise, you can't be depressed and exercise at the same time. Your body is wired. It doesn't understand adrenaline from happiness and adrenaline from sadness or anything like that. If you have a crap load of adrenaline, it might turn into cortisol. It might turn into other things where it feels like it's stress. You know what I mean? But same thing with exercise. Your body doesn't know that, oh, we're going on a cardio run. You might say, I hate it, because you know you're going to do it, but your body thinks we're having sex. It's like, oh, this is exciting. And so anytime I feel like I was getting depressed, I'll be doing juice and toya. I'll go walk, and I'll just go record myself. I would do some videos in the gym, just sweating like, hey guys, man, you know, blah, 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 blah. I want you to, you know what I mean? And I was my happy center. You know what I realized?
What?
I realized it wasn't necessarily the person that I was missing. I was missing me.
Yeah.
And the hardest part of heartbreak, for me, can't speak for everybody, the hardest part of heartbreak was the simple fact that I lost not a person, because that person didn't really want me, but I lost a person who helped provide me with, what's that C word? Convenience. And for me, I'm like, man, what do I miss, right? It was just a me and God moment, and I was just struggling. They wouldn't register my car, my Fusion. There's a bunch of stuff going on. I had to get the groceries delivered. That thing was costing me an arm and a leg. And this craziest thing is, while she thought she left me burning, God provided in the nick of time. And so I had another job at that time. Then like 2 weeks after, my car, they were like, hey, we sent the title. I said, cool. I went to go get it registered. Everything was fine. I was driving around town like nothing. And so I realized on that third and fourth month, I was like, bro, I don't miss her. I just miss the convenience.
Yeah.
And the more I strive to have my own stuff, I was like, yo. And so for me, I'm saying I agree with you that it is hell, because you have to go through the hard part and try to discover yourself.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part, man. This is going to be quite an episode, you guys. We are already at an hour. But take us there, Ann.
So after I ended that relationship with her, I still didn't take the time that I needed. I still didn't sit still and get life together. So I ended up back into a relationship with another woman. We again started off as friends. She lived in the country of Georgia. So she lived like an hour and a half from where I stayed at the time. So we used to talk on the phone. We used to FaceTime, all of that good stuff. So we developed a friendship that way. And it turned into a relationship. Now, this time when it was presented to me of, hey, you know, I like you and let's, you know, will you be my girlfriend? I said yes on the outside, but on the inside I was like, I don't wanna.
All right.
But I said yes because honestly, it was convenient to say so at the time.
Yeah.
It was somebody I can talk to, somebody I can go do things with. And this was around the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So
convenience.
People weren't going anywhere. So if you just literally at home stuck by yourself.
Nah.
So we ended up in a relationship and it was very short-lived. In that relationship, I learned what you would think I would have learned before then. I learned why God made man and woman to be together. Mm-hmm. When I tell you, my first girlfriend was a stud through and through. This girl was more of a mixture.
Gotcha.
When I tell you, the first girl I was with, she wasn't very emotional. Like she had a lot of her mannerisms and stuff was very manly, right? The second girl, complete opposite. She was an amazing friend. She was funny. She was fun to be around. When I tell you emotions was on high 1,000% of the time. And at first it was cool. You know, in the beginning of a relationship, people always send their representative. Yeah. So beginning of the relationship was cool. A couple months down the line, I just realized that she was very emotional.
Yeah. How so?
Like anything could set her. I'm gonna give you a really good example in a minute.
Okay.
But anything would just set her off. Like it would be the crying and the not necessarily the screaming, but the fussing. And then I was just sitting here looking like I didn't know what to do with that. I wasn't equipped with what it takes to deal with that. That's why God made men. And bless y'all little heart, because I was looking at this lady like she is stone cold crazy. I didn't know what was going on. So like I said, the relationship was fairly short. Mm-hmm. So nothing too dramatic, off the charts happened within the course of the relationship. But I'll tell you how it ended. So this is the day I knew I had to get out. Mm-hmm. I've told you this before. Anytime I've been in a situation that God didn't want me to be in, He makes it very uncomfortable for me. Like extremely uncomfortable. That's how I left my last job. He made it so uncomfortable. And I like I told you, God had told me 2 years before I left that place that I was supposed to be gone. Yeah. And I just continued to stay. Well, no, I want to be here. And I like these people. I've been here for 8 years. And God said, okay. Everything that could have went wrong in that job. So I eventually left. Mm-hmm. Same thing happened in this relationship. But what happened was we were on our way. I was at work. And it was like her birthday, or I don't remember what was going on. I think she just wanted to get her hair done. Her hair like flat ironed. Yeah. Right? I'm like, okay, cool. So I was getting my hair regularly done at the time by a male hairstylist. So I was like, yeah, here's his number. Set an appointment with him. He can do it for you. So while I was at work, she goes and get her hair done. Yeah. Cool. I come home. Hair looked beautiful. It was just marvelous. He did a great job. So somehow on the way, we decided after I got off work to go to Cumberland Mall. Mm-hmm. Somehow along the way of going to Cumberland Mall, she started talking about how much she paid to get her hair pressed. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, it was too expensive and da-da-da. And I'm like, well, how much did he charge you? She was like, $90. And I looked at her. I said, okay. Now, if you know anything about a woman getting her hair done, mm-hmm. $90 ain't going to even give you the material you need to get the hair done. No. So in my mind, I'm like, that is a great price. Like, what are you tripping about? Mm-hmm. When I tell you, the more she talked about it, the madder she got. And I can see it on her face. Like, she went from a normal person to just a totally irrational person. And I'm looking at her like, do this change in front of my eyes.
Super same.
And I said, oh no. No. So we got out fussing because I'm not understanding why she's upset. I'm like, if you thought it was too much, why you get your hair done? But it's not too much. That is a good price to get your hair silk pressed. These days, people paying $300-$400 for a silk press.
Yeah,
like hair wash included. Like, come on. Anyway, so we start walking around Cumberland Mall, and at this point, I'm shut down.
Yeah,
I'm not talking. I look mad at the world, and she's like, "What's wrong with you? Are you kidding me right now?"
So how did you get there is a question. If I'm thinking as the listener, how did you get there? So give me an example of like the stuff she was saying. Because I could say, when I'm in a angry per se mood, when I'm angry, I just don't say nothing.
Yeah.
And that's how you know I'm angry. But when I'm in one of those entertainment moods, like, dang, bro, what was this dude thinking, bro? You got me freaking kidding. So it's like an entertainment type of thing.
Yeah.
But what was she saying that had you like, and also I've seen a person go from calm to like, they look like a demon. Like even as a black person, their skin is turning red. I'm like, dang, I didn't know it was possible. But like, what was she saying that got you there? And then what got you to just like, I'm good?
She was basically repeating the same thing of it was too much. She shouldn't have got it done. She was going to go get her money back and all this stuff. And it wasn't necessarily what she was saying. If you were mad about the price, you were mad about the price. Right. It was the irrationality behind it. Like when I came home, you were good. Like you weren't complaining. You was happy. I was like, oh girl, you look so cute. And you were just smiling and just everything was copacetic.
Yeah.
But going from that to now, 30 minutes later, you're just up in rage about it. It was the irrationality for me. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with it. So at that mall, I determined. I remember what?
I determined. It's like, oh, something gonna happen today.
I determined. I was walking through the mall, like I said, and I was just completely shut down because I'm like, Lord, I shouldn't be dealing with this. Yeah. And the Lord said, well, you dealing with it because you made this decision. And I said, well, you're absolutely correct. But
That's not the point, Lord.
That's not the point. I just want you to be on my side. Right. But while I was walking through that mall and I was quiet, I was really thinking. And I started praying. Mm-hmm. I started asking God for guidance. I started asking him for forgiveness. No. I started going through just a whole prayer, right? While she's on this side, I'm like, what's wrong with you? And why you get so quiet? And yeah. And I'm just walking. And God said, are you done yet? Oh. And I said, yeah. And after that situation, went back to the house. And I don't think it was that day, but like within the coming couple of days or week or so, I talked to her and I told her, we can't do this anymore. Yeah. I said, God is not pleased. God is not going to bless them this. Mm-hmm. And I really do believe that God made man and woman to be together. Yeah. And I was very honest with her. I was like, I don't want this anymore. Nah. And so that was the end of that relationship. And I've never been with another woman. I don't have the desire to. I feel like women are very beautiful creatures. The energy they carry, the right ones. Some of y'all are crazy as hell. But women are so resilient. Yeah. And a good, humble, God-fearing woman is the most beautiful thing in the world to me. Yeah. Right?
I think so.
But I don't see him like that no more. I ain't gonna be able to do it. It ain't for me. Lord have mercy.
It's kind of crazy because you think about logic, and I said this some time ago, but I had a woman who would say she's for the LGBTQ. Mm-hmm. And on many occasions, so God will speak to me about other people's situations at times. Mm-hmm. Right. And there were two friends at that time where he was speaking to me, and I was like, oh, shoot, like what I'm going to do with this information. Right. And then here's the craziest part. I would be doing whatever I'm doing. Right. Oh, man, I'm good. Like living in my own world. I'm fine. I'm going to play the game. It's Saturday. I play the game at 3 a.m. and go to sleep. 5 a.m. God wakes me up. And he'll be like, pray. I'm like, you said pray, Lord? Right? He's like, pray. So I'll be like, man, so I'll be up there. God, thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you for my life, health, and strength, blah, 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 blah. And then as I'm praying, it's kind of weird. As I'm praying, he'll be like, okay, I'll pray for that person. Blah, 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 blah. So when I start praying for that person, I'm like, I form the words. And it didn't have to be super crazy.
Yeah.
But every now and then he'll send me something about somebody. And this person was supposed to be a preacher. Mm-hmm. And she was like, hey, God told me I'm supposed to be preaching. I was like, oh, shoot. I forgot. I was supposed to tell you that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
no, I forgot.
And these two people at the time were trusting, like, because I remember, like, at certain times before I got distracted with certain things, my life was like heavy. I was heavy into God. I would wake up at 5 a.m. and start prayer. There was one time we had 5 a.m. and 12 a.m. prayer. I would just do it. And they would be like, hey, did God say anything about me? Did God say something about my future husband? Did that? And I'm like, no, I didn't hear nothing. Like, you know, but this person was supposed to be a preacher. And I was like, oh, yeah, I meant to tell you. You're supposed to be a preacher, but you got to give that stuff up. Yeah. Right. And then she heard the same thing. Like, oh, yeah, God said I'm supposed to be a preacher, but I'm supposed to give that stuff up. And so she spent a lot of her life angry at other people and making decisions toward other people and being extremely angry toward other people because she wanted to stay in that. And one of the craziest things I've heard her say is, oh, you know, I'm in a relationship right now, but like, I just feel like I have that urge and that twinge. I'm like, yeah, everybody's going to feel like they have some type of urge and twinge. We're human. You have to ignore that. Yeah. Then it came to the whole preacher thing. Somebody said it in church now. Now it's different. One of the crazy, like, I won't call him, he's not crazy. I use crazy in a different way. One of the most amazing prophets, I grew up listening to him. You know what I'm saying? Now she has the message. It's like, you are to become a preacher and leave that stuff behind. And I'm still like, well, I can't leave it behind because, you know, I can't leave my people behind. And in my mind, I'm like, what the fudge are you talking about? So you can't, if I became a pastor and I'm trying to teach people God's word, I can't be a pastor because I can't now speak to people in the LGBTQ community. I can't find a loving way to give a message. Yeah. And the Bible says you can't serve two masters. And so all that time she spent angry at the world, doing this and doing this and doing this. I really think she was just battling herself. Yeah. And I commend you because you made a decision like, I'm not going to keep doing this and realize that this is not going to work. Yeah. I think as us as human beings, we face two decisions in our head. We're like, man, I'm going to keep doing this because this feels good. And the other part is like, man, this is kind of stupid. Yeah. Like I told you again, you know, people know on the internet, like I did hookup culture for like a week. It didn't last long. I was just sitting here like, and I think deeply about everything. And so I'm like, I invited this person into my home. I met on a dating app. I have no absolute idea what they're about. I don't know their morals. I don't know their values. I let them into my heart for this little bit of time. I let them blah, blah, blah. You use my stove and all this stuff. And I'm sitting here like, while everybody's like, this is amazing. I'm like, this is the stupidest shit in the world. Like, you know what I mean? And then I just went right back to it. Gonna be alone. I was like, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is stupid. Yeah. And we have to make decisions. And I commend you for making a decision to come to yourself and say, I gotta get out. I gotta cash my chips. It's time to get out this casino. Because I'm going to lose even more than what I came in with.
Exactly. And it wasn't easy. It's fun. Like women, we carry different R's than men do. No. Women are gentle and some of y'all out here manly. But for the most part, women are gentle and they're caring and they're affectionate and they're this. And it's easy to be attracted to that if you listen to the wrong thing. So it wasn't easy to stop. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It wasn't. It was exciting in a way. Yeah. It was like a thrill. It was like a high. But I knew that if I didn't stop, God wasn't going to bless me. Yeah. I feel like he would have still showed me favor only because he loved me and that's his promise. But I would have missed so many blessings. I would have missed where I was supposed to be in life. I would have missed callings. I would have missed all kind of things if I would have stayed. And I know that for a fact. So I would have been the dumbest person ever in life to continue doing it, even though I heard God say 1,000 times before, stop.
Hint, hint, episode coming out soon. You heard God's voice when you was being sneaky.
This is true.
But it was the same for me, man. I used to hear God and I'd be like, crazy, right? You try to, because this is church, because God listens to the prayers. The prayers of the righteous. As long as I'm trying to get my life right, I'll be fine. Hook up my shaya. I'll be like, God forgive me. And don't let this hinder none of my blessings.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay.
Right. It's not how that works.
It's not how that works. Well, I guess you didn't say which blessing, so I'll keep you alive.
Right.
I'll give you the bare minimum income.
Exactly.
I'll give you, like, you know what I mean? It's like, well, and so, I mean, again, my hat's off to you, man. So how do you get here? Because we're going to close this thing out. Tell me about
What?
Tell me you had, because I'm looking at the Cumberland Mall. I can picture an argument at Cumberland. There's 7 different sections.
Listen.
So you had a list on paper what a man looked like for you.
Yes.
What was that?
A man that I wanted. Okay. God-fearing, a leader, compassionate, strong-willed, goal-oriented,
Wow.
ambitious, kind of same thing. Knew how to be faithful, good relationship with his parents. Respectful. Yeah. Those are the basics.
Now you guys notice how she didn't say Lamborghini, gotta make 6 figures, gotta be 6'6", gotta have a 6
I'm blessed because my baby's still 6'4".
Yeah, well, I'm 6'5". Thank you. I'll show you.
He grow every day.
I'm 6'6" with Nikes on.
Shut up.
But she didn't ask for none of that, and I'm gonna let her finish. But it's weird. God gives you exactly what you asked for, and I'm gonna challenge you, ladies, to think about all the exes you had in the past. He gotta be a player, right? That's what you secretly say. He gotta know himself. That's what you're secretly saying. Or you say, he gotta be tall. He gotta have a big dick. He gotta have this. His car gotta be on point. And then you meet those guys and you negate everything that is going to actually keep you in love, keep you in like, keep you in want, keep you in desire. And that's simply understanding a person's mind. I always say this. The person who can see their driver and kill their driver, right? The driver being a car coming toward you, right? And the person, I use this, one of my friends from the Army gave me this. And I said, how do you go out there and you execute? Like, you stay physically fit, you know, you're active, you're a bass player, you go out there, his mission, I'm not going to tell you what his mission is out there in the Navy, or the Army, I'm sorry. But how do you do this? And he told me you got to kill your driver. And so essentially your driver is the one that's causing you to reach toward negative things, right? Causing you to reach toward negative things. He says, if you shoot the tires, right? The tires, that's fine. There's a chance the car might wobble and, you know, go left and right, but chances are it's still going to hit you at a slower pace and still kill you. Yeah. If you shoot out the windows or you try to shoot the engine, same thing. It might come to a slow roar, but it still might kill you. But if you shoot the driver who's controlling the vehicle, then you kill the thing that's actually coming toward to kill you. Yeah. Because even though the tires and the engine are still intact, the steering wheel's going crazy. He's not going to make it to you because there's no one controlling the drivers or the steering wheel anymore.
Yeah.
And so these women out here who are trying to, I need him to have this, I need him to have this, I need him to have this. I get that marriage is a status. But the thing is, I recently watched a woman who married a guy who was significantly shorter than her. And you look at them off first glance and you're like, oh, wow, okay. But you look at how she feels. Every picture she takes, she...
Happy as all get up.
Happy as all get up. Because I know a lot of men even will have this whole, a woman when she's older and frustrated is, that's blah, blah, blah. But I think the same goes. A man when he's in his 20s doesn't really have any desire to work or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so he picks that up in his 30s. And so I think both sexes reach a point in their minds where like, I need to make a shift. But when it comes to y'all ladies, you're getting older. You're getting older. If Anne says, I want a guy who has this and he has a six pack and all this stuff, that's fine. That's what she wants. Mm-hmm. But what she's understood and what I understood about her, because when I asked God for a mate, I was like, I'm not sitting there asking for no fat butt no more. I'm not asking for no this and no more. I'm not asking her if I had no car. I'm not asking for none of that stuff. I want her to be strong-willed. I want her to love God. I want her to put God before she put myself, put God before she put my relationship, all that stuff. I knew what I wanted. But I know that if she wanted to work toward any of that stuff, she'd do it. Why? Because the first thing, the driver, right, is gone. She would know how to fix her life according because she did the hard part, which was in her mind. It's easy to lose weight and do DIC exercises when I know I'm be out there be an F-boy. It's hard to do it when I say I want to do it for God, and for God I live, for God I die. I want to do it for my body and my temple. And that's why we gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, get in 10 relationships. That's why we got 16 baby daddies, because we do it because we want to do it for another person. You're proving that you're only doing it to try to prove yourself worthy of another person's love who don't even know themselves. Yeah. And so you need to get to the point where you take yourself from, oh, I want him to have all these stipulations, and just pray for the person. Matter of fact, speaking of praying for the person, are you eligible? Can you be queen enough? If he's having a bad day, can you be the one that prays for him? Can you do it? Or are you just looking for somebody that's going to make you look good because secretly you feel like crap? Yeah. I'm not taking care of a crap, so to speak, for the rest of my life. You want me to have and hold for 6 and a half death do us part just because I look amazing. A person, fellas, also for you, who does the work in your life. If a woman is there and she knows you have flaws, if a man is there and he knows you have flaws and he's stuck, I like to say that you don't owe anybody anything, but secretly in my heart of hearts, if that person is really stuck by you, you guys were broke and now you're something, you owe that person. You do. Because I believe in my heart of hearts, you get out there, start acting a fool if you want to, God would be like, oh, so you didn't see this blessing I gave you 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll show you something. Okay. And then I'm going to elevate that other person and make you watch. Yeah. Okay. And so I think you guys have to change how you see relationships and how you see people. Because if you look at a relationship as I want to grow and I want to give what I have to this person, it's a happy experience. Yeah. But I'm done with that. How did all of that lead you to us? And how did that lead you to finding yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing what you needed within yourself. We got to the Cumberland Mall argument. You said, I realized God has put a man and a woman together for a reason. Yeah. What made you submissive and what made you say, I'm going to find my man?
Well, I want to think that I've been submissive all my life. Mm-hmm. I think it was kind of instilled in me. I was, both sides of my family are from the country. Mm-hmm. So all I've seen growing up with the marriages within my families are submissive women. The men eat before the women. Mm-hmm. The children eat. So the men eat, children eat, then the women eat. Mm-hmm. The men, you don't wash dishes, you don't clean up, you go to work, you come home, you be a great dad. That's about it. Mm-hmm. So these are relationships that I've seen consistently throughout my entire life. I haven't seen anything else. I haven't seen independent women. I haven't seen, whatever else, the hot girls and all this stuff. I just didn't grow up on it. It wasn't my reality. So that was the model woman for me. Growing up, was a submissive woman to her man. So it wasn't, it's always been in me. So it's not necessarily anything that I had to learn. Okay. Fortunately, it's just something that I've seen all my life. So it was second nature. I really didn't know until recently that that's just not how most women think these days. Yeah. Because that's always been my world. So I didn't know any difference, So it's just me. And what was your other question?
So how did that, now that we got that out the way, given those other situations, now we know that you've always been submissive, right? Mm-hmm. You stated that you've always been submissive. You stated that you know that a man and woman are supposed to be together. Mm-hmm. What drove you to pretty much forsaking all others, right? And then just saying, I'm going to find my man, right? What led you to us after all that stuff you've been through?
After my last relationship with the crazy girl at the Cumberland Mall, she's not crazy, y'all. I just said that. I got back into my Bible. I got back into going to church. I got back into being my own best friend and loving myself harder than anybody ever could. Mm-hmm. And I started to pray for what I wanted out of life. At this point, I wasn't praying for a mate. I wasn't praying for another person. I was basically just praying for myself. Yeah. So I ended up back, which we're not going to get into details about, but I ended up back into another relationship that I backtracked on, which was the little I can't stop talking to hoes guy. I ended up back with him, and I had to sit down, like, when I was going through that situation, like, how did I end up back here? I got out of, the same sex thing, which is great, but I'm still seeking the same type of people. Yeah. So after I ended that relationship, I said, I need to be specific with my prayers. Yeah. I'm not being specific. So that's when I started praying for a man that could cover me. I started praying for a man that could lead me. I started praying for a man, and like you said, not that has this, but I just wanted a good man that I can love no matter where they were in life. Yeah. And that's when I started to see the people that I was attracted to. It changed. Mm-hmm. And I said those prayers. I like to say he was a good man. He just didn't know how to be a leader. Yeah. So and he wasn't at all God-fearing. So that just was a no-no for me. So that was short-lived. Yeah. But after that, I just kept praying. I kept loving myself. Mm-hmm. I kept listening to God and what God told me to do. And that's how I ended up with Dawn. I prayed, like, during the intersection. I don't think that's what I'm looking for. During the end of that last relationship, I prayed. I said, God, it looked good. And like I said, that relationship looked good on paper. He gave me everything I wanted. Mm-hmm. The attention was there. Bills were paid. He helped me with anything I needed help with. Like, it looked really good on paper. But where was God? Nah. It can look great on paper. Yeah. But with God in it, it's just, I don't want it. Yeah. And also the leadership factor was a no for me. I was leading him. Yeah. And I just couldn't. So I prayed, and I ended up here. And when I met Don, I wasn't really taking it. I wasn't, like, per se dating. So he was the first person that I actually went out on a date with and actually talked to on that level. So I really was like, oh, okay, this is nice. And then God told me in the very beginning, like within the first week or so, he said, "This is it." I was like, "What you mean this is it? What does that mean?" Right? And he told me this is it. And we went through some situations where it was like, where God said, you choose. You're either going to be all in. This is what I have for you. You take it or you're not. Yeah. But if you're not going to take it, you're not going to have it. So I've been here ever since. Blair happened.
Man, that's kind of crazy. I was thinking as you were telling that story, now that I think about it, I was like, wait a minute. I asked this woman out on a date. And because I was like, you know how I get fellas when a woman says, I'm not dating, I'm not doing this. And you're like, man, bullshit, right? And that's where I was for a while. I'm like, whatever. If she don't tell me the truth, she don't tell me the truth. And then after a while, I was like, bro, I think she's telling me the truth. Now I think here's what actually confirms the truth. I remember this now. I asked her to go out on a date. We're supposed to go mini golfing, right? I asked her to go on a date. And she was like, hey, let's FaceTime. And I'm like, right? Now maybe I got the timeline mixed up a little bit, but I clearly remember asking her to go somewhere. And she was like, let's have a conversation. And I was like, again, going with these internet, dating gangsters, like all you have to do is text her twice and then ask her to go out. I had more and better experiences not listening to these fools on the internet and very cherishable memories with this woman that I could have never had if I'm listening to these dummies out here. Oh, you got to do this and do this and do this. I'm like, bro. And in my mind, I'm like, why is she asking me to, like, forget the conversation? We're going to have the conversation when we're there. And the craziest thing is the best thing ever happened. Stayed on the phone while she's on her shift for hours. And, like, you know what I mean? I FaceTime her. I wanted to go FaceTime her. And we had set a time aside, right? And I went to FaceTime her and she didn't pick up. And I was like, well, and I just went back and I was like doing something with drums. I don't know if I was cleaning them or whatever. And she calls me back like maybe 5-10 minutes later. And she's sitting on the bed with her nice little thing, sitting on the bed. And she's facing the bed, looking at the camera. And the camera's propped down like this. And I'm sitting here like, oh, that's why she had to call me back. She had to set the camera up. She done went in the mirror. She was like, ooh, I want to talk to this man real quick, man. And she was talking on that FaceTime. And it was crazy seeing how she was so into it, like, you know what I mean? And I can feel like our personalities are the exact opposite. If I do a public speech, I'll tear that place up for the simple fact that I'm a talker, right? If she did a public speech, she'd have everybody crying because the spaces, like, you know what I mean? The spaces will make people think. If she says, she could walk on stage and be like, the best thing you can do as a woman is care for your soul. And that pause will have women be like, I can't believe I'm with this dude right here. Why you here next to me, man? And
He's so silly.
When we're on FaceTime, she carried that same thing. She would have something, she'd be quiet. And I'm talking and I'm doing this and she's he. Man, I say all that to say, you guys we have our own instinct when it comes to women. And I think God designed us for a reason this way. And this is another reason why I tell guys, bro, don't masturbate. Don't look at porn. Don't do none of stuff. Because there are natural things within us that we do toward women because we're craving that sexual energy, right? But then when you crave that sexual energy, you still don't go home. I'm talking, you've been 20, 30 days deep, no masturbation. I'm telling you, you're going to force yourself out there to talk to women, no matter how nervous you are. Because it's our desire to get to know each other. And once you get that, oh, wow, you're a nice, cool person, all that stuff, then you might think I'm crazy. Then it doesn't always become about a nut. And then you get together, you guys are cool. And it's like, you genuinely care about saving this woman or helping her with her problems and stuff like that. But we got to end this thing soon, man, shortly. But this was good. This was good. do you have any last sayings or anything before we pray out?
I just want this podcast to help people where they are, you know? Like if you're in a situation that you know you don't want to be in, but you're not quite ready to leave yet, or you just don't have the strength, or whatever the case may be, that's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's judging you. I stayed in my situation 2 years too long and then hopped into another relationship that I shouldn't have been in.
Yeah.
So it's okay to not be where you're supposed to be. We're still not where we need to be in so many aspects. It's about growth, though. It's about having the foundation and knowing, so that when you do have the strength and when you are ready to do better, you can.
Yeah.
So it's about having that foundation. If you don't have that foundation, you can't go anywhere.
I like it. And you know, I think a lot of people get it wrong where they think that they have to have this perfect situation. Mm-hmm. You know, people try to attack me and say, man, you got 5 kids and you got 2 failed marriages. And for me, I'm just like, bro, that was experience. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful for it, like mentally and like in retrospect, not being funny. A lot of people who judge me, like I mean no harm, or I'm not being arrogant, but they don't even have a quarter of what I have.
Yeah.
And I'm talking spiritually, I'm talking emotionally, I'm talking financially, I'm talking like physically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't even have a quarter. And some people have been living in the same situation, the same marriage for a long time. And they might be like, bro, you left those marriages and you have failures and you have this. And I always say, compliments to Will Johnson Jr. It's like you have fail and you have failure, right? Fail is 3 attempts in life. And so I had 3 attempts in life. I'm sitting here like, well, what can I lose if I stay? My life. Yeah. I'll be stressed to death for somebody to say, wow, well, you did it. Till death do you part. Died at 31. Yeah. Kind of sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, hell no. And then on the other side of the spectrum, it's like, well, what could you lose? I could lose whatever a judge says that I lose. I can gain my freedom. I can gain my peace. No, there's not a judge in the world. There's not a person in the world. There's not a ex in the world that can take that away from me. There's not a child in the world that can take that away from me. Yeah. Even if my own children decided they want to listen up, all right, play this back when you get in the future. Even if my children decided they want to stress me to freak out, can't do that. And I'm teaching you something too, that don't let anybody else take this stress or stress you away or stress you to actual death. Yeah. It's not something you want to do. And so I think what you have to realize, you guys have to realize in relationships is you focus too much on what people may think of you. You focus too much on what somebody may say and all that stuff. You have to understand they're probably living a very horrible life themselves. And the more you focus on it, I promise you, people aren't happy for you until they see the works that God has done. This is some wisdom for you. People aren't happy for you until they see the works that God has done. I'm telling you right now, we just came from VCA, Pastor Norfolk Church, right? I can almost guarantee you have people in this corner who are like, oh, you might make it, or you might do this, give me all the opposition. As soon as he writes this song, I need you now. As soon as you write the other song, as soon as he gets to church, it's like, oh yeah, I always believed in you. Deep down inside, it's like, you know you didn't. Shut up, sit in the side.
Right.
You should. I'm in there on the boxing ring, like, you back there just in your phone. Like, right. Oh, I knew you can do it. I knew you got this, Pastor. You got it. You know what I mean? And so essentially, a lot of you guys that are in relationships, you want people to root for you and cheer for you and all that stuff. I promise you, spend some time with yourself. Well, there's 2 things I know you would do. You would sit here and look at that person like, dang, I can't believe I'm with you. And you look at your life and say, I don't want this debt. I don't want this house. I don't want this. I don't want this. And you only are stressed because you feel like you're a slave to the things you have, right? The one thing that keeps you at your job is the fact that you got a home loan. The one thing that keeps you going to that boss that hates you and keep calling you slurs is because you got a car loan. But when you understand I have me, I can give this car up. I don't need it. I can give this house up. I don't need it. A lot of you are like, no, I do need it because how am I going to get around? Don't. Simple. I do need this house because where am I going to live? Figure it out. Go smaller. Go to a studio apartment. If we lost this house, I have peace because I'm Don J. Yeah. And the craziest part is my soon-to-be wife has peace because she's like, I know this man can build something. One little step back it doesn't define him because he was never defined by this house in the first place. Exactly. And so you guys have to get to the point where you understand yourselves and you want to give to yourself, then you can give to somebody else, but you're not trapped. And we also we always say, man, if God was through with you, you wouldn't be here right now. Yep. But also, don't spit in his face. God is time. Don't spit in his face. Don't act like you got all day to do it.
Yep.
You don't know if tomorrow's promised. And if I had one more day to live, I would love to live it with God's grace, and I would love to live it operating his will, because that's where my peace comes in. All right?
Yes.
Don J, Yrvette Renee, I'm going to do this closing prayer. And where can they find you?
I am Yrvette Renee on all social medias. YRVETTE RENAE. Renee.
And I am Don J, donj.com, DAHNJAY. I got a book coming out for you guys. I have some courses if you're a musician drummer per se, trying to get better. And we're just going to keep growing, man. We're just going to keep doing things and just operating in the things that helped us become successful and sharing it with you guys. The luminoushorizon.org. I am going to buy another domain so you don't have to type all of that out at some point. We're going to see how much these domains are charging because they just take them and hold them. Don't do nothing with them. All right. But if it's under like 10 grand, then maybe I'll buy it. But if it's over that, you can have it. And you guys just got to type out the luminoushorizon.org. All right.
Right.
But yeah, man, that is the video for us. And I'm going to pray us out. Father, we thank you for everything you've done. We thank you for even today, this amazing Sunday that we are here. God, we thank you for life, health, and strength. We do not take that for granted. We do not take the fact for granted that we can talk and operate and function and speak with you when other people don't have the opportunity to talk to their gods. They don't have the opportunity to converse, to speak well of, to do anything, to communicate with their gods. We thank you for that, God. Now I pray for the people who are suffering in their mind. They're suffering. They're trying to find something. I pray that you give them wisdom to understand that they need to ferment. Ferment being take time to themselves so that they can operate and give what they can afford to lose. When I say afford to lose, God, I want people to understand that when they afford to lose it, they can give to themselves again, God. All the people that are looking for love in the wrong places, I ask that you continue to heal their hearts, heal their minds, guide them to the right places in the right areas that they're supposed to be in, God. Lead them in the direction of the water and help them drink it. I pray that this podcast will grow and that it will teach people how to live great, fruitful lives and give back to others who may be suffering. In the name of Jesus, I pray. I pray the healing of all the people under the sound of my voice, in your car, on the radio, wherever this podcast is playing, that they can be healed. And lead them, God, lead them to some type of education so that they can get to where they need to be. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys, that's the video. Don J and
Yrvette Renee.
As always, shedding light on limited perceptions. As always, be lit and
bye.
Peace.